had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving. I had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving.
Hello, and welcome back to another Thursday question and answer episode of the Worth Loving podcast. I'm your host, Keana W. Mitchell. And as always, I'm so grateful that you're here, showing up for yourself, asking hard questions, and choosing emotional clarity over confusion. These Thursday episodes are one of my favorite parts of the week because they give a space to talk through the real everyday questions you're navigating in your real everyday life. Some of the questions today came directly from today's episode or this week's main episode on emotional affairs and micro-cheating, but we have some of them that don't. And I get that because life doesn't happen in neat categories, right? And that everyone out there is dealing with multiple layers of healing, boundaries, and communication and self-worth all at once. And this is the space for all of it. So if you're new here, every Tuesday I answer listener questions about relationships, emotional safety, healing after betrayal, communication struggles, and everything in between. We also answer questions sometimes that I know people want to ask or that people have asked me in the past to make sure that we get all the answers that we need so that we can begin to heal. So if you ever want your question featured on a future episode, you can send it to KeanaWMitchell@gmail.com, and that is spelled KeanaWMitchell@gmail.com. But before we jump into today's questions, I want you to take a breath. Whether you're listening in your car or on a walk or curled up on your couch, I want you to know that your feelings matter, your questions matter, and you deserve a relationship that feels safe, steady, and emotionally honest. So let's get started. Now, before we get into your questions for today, we're going to take a minute to revisit this week's main episode because a lot of the messages came in after listening to it. So this week we talked about the difference between emotional affairs and micro-cheating. These are two forms of betrayal that go unnoticed or minimized, but can deeply impact emotional safety in a relationship. We explored how emotional affairs often begin as innocent friendships that slowly cross boundaries. We drew from Dr. Shirley Glass research. We talked about how emotional intimacy can shift from the partner to the outside person, which creates secrecy, emotional displacement, and a sense of being replaced. We also talked about micro-cheating, which is the subtle boundary-crossing behavior that Dr. John Gottman describes as early indications of betrayal. Things like secretive texting, flirty comments, hiding interactions, or seeking validation outside the relationship. These behaviors may seem small, but they do chip away at trust over time. And of course, we discussed the powerful walls and window theory from Dr. Shirley Glass, how a healthy relationship keeps a window open between the partners and a wall protects the relationship from outside threats. In an affair, that structure flips. So today's question and answer is a continuation of that conversation. Many of you had questions about how to spot these behaviors, how to talk about them, and what healing might look like. And others had questions about completely different relational struggles, which we'll also get into. But before we get into this week's questions, I want us to hear a word from one of our sponsors. I want to take a moment to share something that can support you if you're ready to go deeper in your healing journey. My 12-week trauma-informed coaching program, You Are Worth Loving, is designed specifically for women who are healing from emotional abuse, rebuilding self-trust, and learning how to choose relationships that feel safe, healthy, and aligned. Inside the program, we work together to help you understand your attachment patterns, rebuild your sense of worthiness, learn how to set boundaries without guilt, break free from cycles of emotional unavailability, strengthen your intuition, and create a vision for healthy love. This isn't a surface level program. It's deeply supportive, emotionally safe, where you can heal at your own pace. You'll receive weekly coaching, guided exercises, and tools rooted in research from leading psychiatrists. Their work on attachment, trauma, and self-compassion forms the foundation of the program. Some of the psychologists we will be using their research on is Dr. Sue Johnson, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and Dr. Kirsten Neff. Their work is amazing, and I've used a lot of it in the podcast. So this is what we use to build our program and to make sure that people who are in the program get the help that they need. If you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, I know what I need to do, but I don't know how to actually do it, then this program is for you. You don't have to navigate healing alone. You don't have to guess your way through dating or relationships. You deserve support, clarity, and a roadmap. So, if you're interested in joining the next class, stay tuned. Enrollment opens soon, and I would love to walk alongside you on this journey. Now, let's get back into today's episode. All right, question number 1. How do I know if my partner's friendship with someone is crossing into an emotional affair? That is such an important question, and it's one that so many people struggle with because an emotional affair doesn't always look like cheating, right? So there's no physical evidence, no dramatic movement, it's a slow shift, and that's what makes it more confusing. According to Dr. Shirley Glass, the biggest indicator is secrecy. When a friendship becomes something your partner hides, minimizes, or becomes defensive about, that's a sign the emotional boundary has shifted. Another sign is emotional displacement. So if your partner used to come to you with their tears and fears, frustrations, dreams, or daily experiences, and now they're sharing those with someone else, there's a shift in emotional intimacy. So I would suggest looking for increased excitement around the other person, comparing you to them, protecting the relationship with that person, sharing personal details they don't share with you, withdrawing emotionally from the relationship, minimizing your concerns. The key question is this: is the emotional energy that belongs in the relationship being redirected somewhere else? If the answer is yes, that's not just a friendship. There's an emotional affair forming, and your feelings about it are valid. Question number 2. My partner says micro-cheating isn't real. Am I overreacting? Okay, so first and foremost, no, you are not overreacting. Micro-cheating is real, and research supported it's real, and it's also supported by research, right? It matters because it affects emotional safety. Dr. Gottman's work shows that betrayal doesn't start with the affair. It starts with the small moments of turning away from the relationship. So micro-cheating includes behaviors like deleting messages, hiding interactions, flirting under the guise of joking, quote unquote, keeping someone on the hook, seeking validation outside of the relationship. So these behaviors may not be full-blown cheating, but they absolutely cross emotional boundaries. And boundaries are what protect trust in relationships. So when someone dismisses micro-cheating as quote unquote not real, what they're really saying is, I don't want to be held accountable for the impact of my behaviors. You're not overreacting. You are noticing a pattern that makes you feel unsafe, and that absolutely matters. Question number 3. Oh, this is good. This is good. Can a relationship fully recover from an emotional affair? So that's a loaded question. But the answer to that is yes. But only with real accountability, transparency, and emotional repair. So emotional affairs cut deep because they involve intimacy, secrecy, and emotional displacement. But with the right work, couples absolutely can rebuild trust and even create a stronger relationship. But healing does require radical honesty, cutting off the outside connection completely, transparency with communication, understanding the why behind the affair, rebuilding emotional intimacy, patience, and consistency. It's possible, but it takes both people fully committed to the process. Question number 4. What does accountability look like after micro-cheating? Okay, so this is really good. Accountability, first we're going to talk about what accountability does not look like, and then we're going to talk about what accountability is. So accountability is not, quote unquote, I said I'm sorry, can we move on? That's not accountability. However, accountability is acknowledging the behavior, understanding the impact, right? Changing the pattern, being transparent moving forward, rebuilding trust through consistent actions. So if someone is defensive, dismissive, or minimizing, that is not accountability. Question number 5. How do I bring up concerns about micro cheating without sounding accusatory? The best way to do that would be, I say, using I statements. Now, I statements help you to stay grounded and focus on emotional impact. So I would try something like, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm sharing how certain behaviors make me feel. Or, when messages are deleted, I feel unsafe. I want us to talk about boundaries that protect our relationship. So I would suggest approach with curiosity and not with confrontation, which is difficult to do sometimes. I know, because sometimes that can be confrontational, but I've learned that when we approach with curiosity and not confrontation, we can get more out of that conversation because that person probably will not shut down. There's a possibility they'll listen to what we have to say. So I would highly, strongly encourage you to use I statements and also to approach with curiosity and not confrontation. Question number 6. How do I stop choosing emotionally unavailable partners? Okay, this is good. So a lot of times we think that we're just choosing these people, right? But we have to look at attachment. The patterns of choosing the same type of person over and over and over is rooted in attachment. It's rooted in self-worth and familiarity, right? So you're not choosing them because you want pain. You're choosing them because something in your history made emotional distance feel normal. It made emotional distance feel like it was okay. Or maybe you were taught that these were normal signs of a relationship, or you saw these as normal signs in a relationship, and you don't realize that these are unhealthy signs in a relationship. So, in order to stop doing this, it requires healing. And healing requires us to be aware, it requires boundaries, and choosing differently when it feels unfamiliar. I would also suggest maybe seeking a therapist, talking to a coach, so that you can kind of identify where these patterns started, because a lot of times patterns don't happen immediately, right? We are taught different behaviors, we learn different behaviors, we develop patterns because of things we've experienced. So I would suggest talking to a therapist or a coach to find out where this attachment pattern is rooted, to find out when it started, to kind of figure out what's going on. Because only when you know what is triggering this, what is going on, why you're doing this, can you stop it. So the best way to stop would be, I say, see a therapist or a coach so that healing can begin and you can figure out what is going on so that you can stop doing these behaviors. Question number 7. How do I rebuild my confidence after a breakup? Okay, that's a good question because breakup shakes your identity, right? A lot of us have the identity of, oh, I'm married, oh, I'm in a relationship, oh, I do this, I do that. So when there's a breakup, that identity can be shaken or even shattered. So rebuilding confidence means connecting with yourself because at the end of the day, you are more than a relationship, right? You are you. You have value. You have worth. You are enough just the way you are without a relationship. The relationship should enhance you and not become who you are. So just remembering that it's about reconnecting with yourself, your voices, your needs, your desires, your strengths, and knowing that you are enough with or without a relationship can absolutely help you rebuild your confidence after a breakup. It's also a process. And once again, I would encourage you to talk to a therapist or a coach because a lot of times talking with someone else about this and getting our thoughts and feelings out can help you during the healing process. And it is a process of remembering who you were before the relationship and who you're becoming now. So that is what I would suggest, seeking the help of a therapist or a counselor or even a coach to help you through the process of rebuilding, trusting yourself, and most importantly, reconnecting with the person that you are. Question number 8. What should I do if my partner shuts down every time I try to communicate? Shutdowns are often about emotional overwhelm, and you cannot force openness. But what you can do is create safety. So I would suggest use gentle startups, okay? Gentle startups are things that provide safety, they give you help, and it helps you understand what to do. So instead of saying something like, you did such and such and such and such, you can say, well, I noticed the other day such and such and such happened. Um, I'm curious what occurred, or something like that. Ask for the right timing. A lot of times we just communicate at any time. Maybe someone is stressed, maybe they're busy, maybe they're not in the right space to hear what we have to say. So we ask for the right timing and time our questions when that person is feeling calm and relaxed. That could also be a way to talk if you're trying to communicate. And set boundaries around communication needs, because a lot of times each person think of communication differently. Some of us need more communication, some people need less communication. So understanding communication needs, being able to set boundaries around communication needs can be helpful. I would also suggest starting a conversation off just talking about anything. Maybe not just start off by talking about the problem, or maybe have a conversation where you don't talk about the problem, then you just talk about something else. And you talk about something that's not confrontational. You talk about something you both like, you both enjoy, just to build that rapport. Because a lot of times even when it comes to counseling or things like that, you have to have a rapport. And it's the same with relationships. You need to have that rapport before you jump into something heavy. So I would say, communicate just by talking about things that you both like. And another question, because I know the question said, what should I do if my partner shuts down every time I try to communicate? But I guess my question is, does the partner shut down every time you're dealing with hard, like you have to talk about hard conversations or discuss things they don't want to talk about, or are they just shutting down in everyday normal conversations? That is something that I would definitely see, because if they're shutting down in everyday conversations, that could definitely be a bigger problem. But if they're shutting down when you're just having hard conversations, it could be a lot about emotional overwhelm. So knowing when they're shutting down would also be very helpful with knowing when to communicate and how to communicate with this person. Okay, question number 9. How do I know if I'm ready to date again? I love that. So there's really no right or wrong answer, right? You're ready when you choose from desire and not loneliness. So when you decide, you know what, I think I want to date again, because you have a desire, you want to get out there, you want to have fun again, you want to get all into it, then that is how you can know you're ready to date again. And it's, yeah, once you have that desire. And when we say not loneliness, I mean, I don't want you to say I'm ready to date again because you're lonely. That is a big red flag. And if you're lonely, you want to date again because you're lonely, thinking that finding someone will fix your pain, then that will just allow you to keep the same patterns going of not getting the relationship you really want or need or desire, because you're just picking someone out of loneliness, and that could mean you're settling for less than what you deserve. So you are ready to date again when you choose from desire, when you want to get back out there, when you have a love for life and you just want to date again and you love yourself. That's most important. Love yourself. And you're not doing it because you're lonely or you think a relationship can fix certain issues in your life. So that is very important. It's also important to recognize that you're ready to date again when you can see red flags clearly, and when you're not looking for someone to fix your pain. That is a huge indicator that you are ready to start dating again. Question number 10. Is it normal to feel lonely even when I'm in a relationship? And yeah, absolutely. Loneliness in a relationship often signals emotional disconnection, unmet needs, or lack of intimacy. It's a sign to explore and not a sign to ignore. So yeah, it can happen, and it can be normal, especially in relationships where if there is an emotional disconnection, but I wouldn't say that's always the norm, because it isn't in healthy relationships. But in relationships where it may not be very healthy or there's an emotional disconnection, loneliness can absolutely happen and might be normal in those types of relationships. So I would definitely encourage you to explore that and see what's going on. Please don't ignore it. Explore it and see what's going on. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for being here, for asking these questions, and for doing the emotional work that so many people avoid. Your healing matters, your clarity matters, and your emotional safety is worth protecting. So if you want to ask questions or have your questions featured in a future episode, email me at keanawmitchell@gmail.com. And if today's episode helped you, share it with someone who might need it. Make sure you subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And remember, you are worth loving, worth protecting, and worth choosing. Until next time, have an amazing day and an awesome weekend. Bye bye.
I had to